we're really an embassy farm. And all these folks farming like we are across the country are ambassadors to the American public, because we have the interface. Just like when you're traveling and you got a problem, you look in on our embassy. People look to us to get a vision of what American agriculture is like, and they realize it's taking care of the land and it's hard work.
Well, welcome back to Farmside Chat. This is Zippy Duvall, President of American Farm Bureau and the host of this podcast. And I'm so excited to be with you again today because I have some special guests with me that I really enjoy to go visit. But all of you know that I travel the country and talk to our farmers, what we call our grassroots of our organization. Be able to talk to them about the issues that face them, talk to them about the history of their farms and what they do on their farms. And then I take those stories to help us advocate for them in Washington. But then I also get to have this Farmside Chat to deliver that to all the people around the country that's interested in agriculture. And I will tell you, this has become one of the highlights of my job. I really enjoy going back and visiting with these farmers on this Farmside Chat and giving them the opportunity to tell their story in person, because it always is a stronger story when it comes from the farmer himself. So today I have with me Jamie and Terry Jones from Connecticut. Just a few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to go and visit their farm and some of their neighbors' farms. And when you think about Connecticut, you really don't think about agriculture much. And when I got there, it is a little different the way they deliver it to the customer, but it's still hard work, still all the same problems and issues that face American farmers all across this country, just done a little differently and delivered a little bit differently to the consumer. So thank you. Thank y'all for being with me today, and thank you so much for giving so much of your time when I come to visit your farms. And I know that you have a long history there. I think it was 1848. And I would love for y'all to tell the audience a little bit about the history of your farm.
Sure. Well, I'll start off. I'm Generation 5. So the first generation came over from Ireland, Philip James Jones, and he got things started here in the 1850s, and it was kind of he was very livestock oriented. He raised beef cattle and sheep and sort of direct marketed them. He did the butchering and brought them into town and sold them from a wagon. And I remember once hearing how the store he was selling stuff to didn't like the price, so he just set his wagon up right outside the store and sold it direct. And that sort of got into that dispute. And really, that's been the focus, is direct marketing all these generations onto dairy and milk production. My father was a man in love with trees and the forest, and got a Christmas tree business started that grew out of his 4-H project in the 1930s. And I started vegetables in the 1950s and 60s and found that people loved to come and buy strawberries. So kind of scaled back the vegetables, did strawberries, harvest your own. The crop failed one year, so we planted blueberries and had a little diversity. And Jamie came along, and he was a product of Cornell University, and wouldn't you know, Finger Lakes and all, he said to Gene and I, he says, I'd like to plant vineyards. So, and on from there to the wine production, award-winning wine production. So that sort of and his kids are interested in potatoes, and little Juliet is doing a beautiful job selling flowers. So every generation sort of rewrites the script.
Terry, I talk to a lot of families when their sons and daughters come back, and it's almost like they go to school and they find what niche they can bring back to that farm to add enough extra income for them all to and afford to have the family stay there on the same farm. And your illustration of what's happened over all those years is what happens just about all over the country. And it's amazing to me how the young people come back, the innovation they have and the creativity they have of what they bring to the farm and increase the income there that they can stay. That doesn't mean that it doesn't come without a lot of challenges. And I know y'all live in a very busy part of our country, up in the northeastern part of the country. And one of the things we talked about was how you deliver straight to the consumer. So can you talk to us a little bit about how you're involved in your community and how you help your community see what you're doing, and maybe while you're doing that, talk a little bit about the sustainability side of your farm.
Yeah, no, thanks, Zippy. I'll just continue my day. I mean, it's hard to embrace change, but I think that's what's made our farm successful. As every generation is allowed to bring something different. And many things with the farm, as you know, are very traditional. Many things do remain constant. We're still farming, we're still producing agricultural products, but you do have to figure out ways to do it better, using technology, better genetics, and marketing. And my dad has been growing strawberries, for over 50 years. And, initially, and it's always kind of been harvest your own, but the original harvest your own model was very much a way for people could pick a volume of that crop, and whether make jams, preserves, or freeze it or use it for cooking. People still love to come out and pick, but it's not for volume, or very little is for the volume. It's really just more for experiential. And, the majority of people are there, they just want to bring their families to see a farm and pick a couple quarts of berries and probably, use them for fresh. There very little processing is probably happening with that fruit anymore. So we've really had to focus more on kind of the hospitality side of the business, as we call it, and offer great customer service and experience. And that has it's gone well, but not without its hiccups. And I could talk for hours about how COVID layered into that, and how we've even further evolved that experience. And but we've been fortunate for our community. Embracing our farm. I mean, we are, as you saw, unique in that we're surrounded by, I don't know what the radius is, but hundreds of thousands, if not, millions of people, as New York City is only 80 miles away from us. But we do have a land base of now probably in excess of 500 acres, and being able to grow a lot of different crops and be able to market to those people and basically sell nearly all of that product to people who are coming to our farm, whether it's directly to harvest it or at our winery and through wine tastings and bottle sales. Very, very little wholesale. Any wholesale is just above and beyond what we expected to produce. So and we tell people the community, that's what's supporting our farm, and it's a two-way street. You really almost have to have a partnership with your community and your neighbors, and they need to accept all the realities of agriculture. The early morning or evening sounds, noises at times. For us sometimes it's the traffic through the neighborhoods on weekends, and but their benefits are the vistas, the beautiful views, and lack of further development.
I would just add that, and Zippy, there's lots of parts of the country where there's farms like ours on the suburban and urban fringe, and we're really an embassy farm. And all these folks farming like we are across the country are ambassadors to the American public. because we have the interface, just like when you're traveling and you got a problem, you look in on our embassy. People look to us to get a vision of what American agriculture is like, and they realize it's taking care of the land and it's hard work. And when we work with our staff to train them and discuss how we're handling the folks, the consumers that come here, say, you know, you're an ambassador and you think of it like you're having an event at your own home, and you're welcoming these consumers into your own home, and just treat them the way that you would treat your guests, and that has a remarkable positive effect, and people just like coming and seeing what's going on.
And I'll just add one more quick thing, because a lot of other farms, I know, like ours, and more suburban, they are buying product and reselling it. I think it's probably in excess of 90% of what we're selling is grown on the farm. It is authentic. A lot of it is harvest your own. So whether it's a harvest your own Christmas tree, or pick your own strawberry, a pumpkin, we grow over 25 acres of pumpkins where people harvest them. So I think that does make us unique, because people do recognize when they come to the farm, they are seeing a real working farm. I know a lot of people see farms like agri-tainment. I know what that term is about, and yes, we probably fall in that, but I figure we're more about agri-education and
hospitality,
and teaching people. I mean, yes, of course we offer hay rides, but a hay ride is an opportunity to go through the fields and see all the crops that we do have growing that are there. So it's no doubt it would probably be easier just to buy and resell a lot of stuff, but our focus is staying real and growing what we sell, and I think our community and guests reward us for that.
Yep. Well, I see a lot of agri-entertainment going across the country, but I always, you say you might fall in that category, but I tell farmers that don't do that, just like you said, Terry. I'm going to start using your words from now on. You are an embassy and an ambassador for all the rest of us that don't have the opportunity to bring the general public to our farms. So, I always tell people that farm like you do, I always tell them thank you from the rest of the farmers across the country, because you are educating them and giving people a real live touch of what we do each and every day. And there's no way to come to your farm without seeing a whole lot of work going on. Places don't stay as pretty as your place is without a lot of people working. And crops don't grow as healthy, and land doesn't look as healthy as yours does without a whole lot of work going on and a lot of people. So I know you provide a lot of jobs. One of the things I remember most about y'all's farm is you brought a young man that had worked there before, and I think now he's the person that's in charge of the winery making the wine. And I can't remember his name, but to have a young man that grew up working on your farm just to have a job and love it so much he want to come back and spend his career there speaks a lot for the family and y'all and how you treat the people that work for you. So that was one of the things I really found very interesting, and I don't see that a lot, but sometimes you do. I'd love for you to talk about, can you give me a guess of how many people y'all allow to come onto your farm? And because I know you do, you have a name for when you open up the strawberry patch. What do you call that week or that time?
Strawberry time.
Well, it's a harvest your own. We have a couple farms, our Pumpkin Seed Hill. And I'll just go back. Yeah, our success would not happen without a great team of employees. I mean, we probably have about 25, full-time regular employees, and layer in that well over 100 seasonal part-time that you need to do it both hospitality and agriculturally. So again, it takes a team and getting that group of people to believe in our family philosophy of caring for the farm and working in that. But in the course of the year, I mean, that's a great question. We can kind of add up, but we have several 100,000 guests, visit the farm every year. It's hard to know how many of them count as, repeat returns that come for the strawberries, the blueberries, the pumpkins, the Christmas tree, and the vineyard winery. So, we know some people visit us, 5 or 6 times, a family, but we sell over 10,000 Christmas trees every Christmas to families of 4 or 5 people. So you're with all of that, you're just in our tree season alone approaching 100,000 guests in about a 3-week period, which is kind of our most intense time of year. In terms of seeing a large number of people. So
and I would just add that because my dad, in fact, it was the year I was born, 1947. Some neighbors asked him to cut a couple of these 4-H trees that he planted, and he actually sold 12 trees that year. And he was pretty excited about that. And of course, it's grown to close to 12,000, and he was just passionate about it.
Yeah. So a lot of people might be interested in knowing what size your farm is. How many acres is there?
Well, to go through the history, and I give my dad a lot of credit. Historically, I think the farm started as about 250 to 300 acres. The original Philip Jones, that's what he is, coming from Ireland, was able to acquire and put together over time. And that's what it kind of stayed as. And then my dad, and my mom, really in the mid-1980s, had a couple opportunities as farms were, actually going up for sale for development nearby us. And I mean, I give them a lot of credit for their age with me as a young child and my sister. Kind of went out on a limb, and they bought about 150 acres and almost double the size of it to 400 acres, and it kind of stayed at that. And then we have sold some of the development rights to a couple parcels of the farm, and by taking that money and just timeliness of other real estate becoming available, we exceed 5. But it's well over 500 acres now that we've got and acquired, and approaches 600 if you include the leased land that's available.
I would like to emphasize, of course, we had a vision. We knew, and first of all, a shout out to the women that these 6 generations have married, because they've all become very much partners, and a lot of their enthusiasm and wisdom have led to our success. But we recognized in the late 70s and early 80s that this whole region around the farm was just sprouting up subdivisions willy-nilly. And we realized that if it's almost like Buckminster Fuller said, you got to be an architect of your future, not the victim.
Right.
And we worked with the people in the community. We worked with Land Trust, American Farmland Trust, USDA, NRCS, and bit by bit, we would buy and then sell development rights and do like-kind exchanges, and probably about 25 transactions over a 30 to 40 year period to piece this puzzle together. And you had to have all elements of our town and the land trust, everybody working together, fierce cooperation.
Yeah.
And had a vision that this 2,000 acres, which would be a combination of what several farmers owned, what land trust owned, watershed land with the local water company, and city open space, and put this all together in a mosaic that creates quite an ecosystem. And when folks come, it's as good as being in Vermont, because we have views that are very, very beautiful.
You do.
And if it had just sprouted up houses in between all this land, it would have. We couldn't have done it.
Yeah.
So it takes planning and it takes some innovation.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you that all those programs you talked about that you were able to partner with to make that a reality, I would say that there's 100,000 folks a year that really appreciate those programs being there that you can partner with to make sure that you make that experience available to them. I would challenge people listening to the podcast to think about, what if you had a 400-acre home, and we all consider every acre of our farm our home, that you have to get ready to entertain 100,000 people every year, and what kind of pressure and hard work is going along with that to get that done is pretty amazing. So, that should tell people that's not in agriculture why those programs that we partner with are so important. It helps our farms be sustainable, because you could not have farmed that land at the value it was if you didn't have those programs that you could partner with. You would have had to been somewhere else and not be farming, and that is a reality all over this country, and that's why those programs are there, to provide that experience for people, to provide the green space, and provide everybody an opportunity to see what real farmland can do in a sustainable way, where a lot of times people don't think that we do that, but we do that. I'd love to turn a little bit back, and because I was also impressed with y'all's involvement in the community and your city and your state. I got the opportunity to be at an event y'all had that night. You had your congressmen and senators there. You had local elected officers there. It just tells me that not only are you working and trying to make a living, but you're being a part of that community, and you're respected, or those people wouldn't have shown up. I go to a lot of major agricultural places, and it would be hard for them to get their senator to come, and or congressman, and I went to your place in the middle of an urban area, and they show up, and that just showed me something that's very valuable. So tell me, I know that you're big Farm Bureau workers, you're volunteers. Your family's been part of. I saw a picture of where one of the first Farm Bureau meetings was held on y'all's farm, and I can't remember what year it was, but it was a long time ago. Tell us a little bit about how you take your Farm Bureau work and blend it into drawing those type of people that are representing you as an elected official and having interest in what you do.
Well, I'll start off and then turn it over to Jamie. But we're all we all grow up with the philosophy that was the sort of the credo of the family. And my great-grandparents and my grandparents were enormous supporters of Farm Bureau. Our county Farm Bureau is one of the oldest in the country, and American Farm Bureau. And I remember them saying stories of how in the 1940s and early 50s they'd take the train out to the West Coast to attend the American Farm Bureau convention. And it was quite a really central part of their lives. And my grandmother became very active in the Farm Bureau women, and she was chosen after World War II to go with a group of other women in various professions to Germany and talk to the women in Germany and sort of encourage them to move forward and get on with a brighter future. So it's definitely in our DNA. And if you can work together and have conversations, and I don't care which political party you belong to, we all have in common most of the same values. We want the best for our children, and we want healthy living and good education, and there's elements of that in every one of us. And just to, as I say, get people to work with fierce cooperation to make that happen. And that's what you saw at the farm that night, and that's why all those politicians were eager to come and share their support of Farm Bureau and agriculture, because they know it's central to the survival of this country, if not the world.
Yeah, I know that in a lot of areas I go, that's all agriculture. I hear them talk about the congressmen and senators from the Northeast not having appreciation for agriculture. Well, if they'd have been there that night, they would have seen a different. They would have changed their minds. But I got to hand it to y'all, not to your family and to your county farm bureau and your state farm bureau and the leadership there. That would not be a reality if you didn't focus on how important it is to advocate for agriculture. And we're very appreciative of all the farmers across America that in smaller states where it's mostly urbanized, that you take the time to do that. So we really appreciate y'all doing it. Go ahead, James.
Well, I'll just add quick. You got to be engaged. You want to be a resource. You try to be nonpartisan. Like I say, agriculture. Everyone needs to eat in this country. We're providing food and experiences for people. I mean, just on Friday, because of that event, the lieutenant governor came back with the commissioner of agriculture for Connecticut, and she reached out and she brought out he didn't come, but a congressional aide came with them for another farm tour, and you talk to the aide and like, hey, I know you're congressman, but he's like, the farm bill's coming up, I'm there, let's talk about that. So I know that's not top of mind for him, but there's a conversation I can have with a congressman on farm bill issues as it's already, the hearings have already started. So, and then you just, the cooperative extension services, on the growing side with that, on farm finance, being involved with the farm credit system. It takes a lot of time besides, it's hard enough to work on the farm, but you do I don't know where you find the hours in the day, but you do, and maybe you can't do everything, but, between my dad, myself, my wife, my mother, you just got to get engaged and involved in the community in different levels and participate. And, but it's
one of the highlights of that visit last Friday with our Lieutenant Governor, Susan Bicewicz, is Jamie's our granddaughter, Juliet, who's started making bouquets of flowers that she's been growing here. And when the Lieutenant Governor walked into the winery, Juliet presented her with this beautiful bouquet, and a picture's worth 1,000 words, and the feelings of joy that Lieutenant Governor and our granddaughter had were just amazing. Amazing.
It sounds like, Jamie, your daughter has found her niche that she's going to bring back to the farm. You have flowers growing that way.
Yeah, I mean, she's got her own Juliet's flower, but she's got her own Instagram and whatever doing that. I mean, it's fortunate she's got a captive audience, which is kind of how I started. I mean, my first crop, and we still call them I grew my Jamie's giant pumpkins, the big fair type pumpkins. But yeah, no, it's you have to show that next generation an opportunity and some economic benefits from it also if you're going to get them to come back.
Yeah, but you're exactly right, Terry. Those snapshots are wonderful snapshots to have of your children and grandchildren being involved in agriculture and playing their part, their role, and because they all are important. You're exactly right too. Earlier in the conversation, you referenced our wives. I don't know what I would have done here without my wife, and currently now, what they bring to the operation. And we're seeing more and more women farmers own and operate farms. It's the growing sector of agriculture in America, and we're just proud to see that because they're hardworking. They're very dedicated, just like any other farmer is, and we're just proud to see that sector growing. One of the things I want to talk about is the beauty of y'all's farm, the old barns, and how well they've been taken care of. The rolling hills, a bit rocky, and I know that's probably a challenge, but those rolling hills covered with strawberries, blueberries, the grapevines, and the Christmas trees was breathtaking. And I know that you're proud of every inch of it, but I also know that rolling hills and rocks makes for a very difficult day in the field. And so thank you for all the work that you do there.
I just want to lift up uh, my wife, Jean. We've been married 53 years, I guess. And this has been one of her, all through those years, to persist with a maintenance program on these old buildings to keep them up. And, they're just, you're absolutely right, a precious part of our heritage.
Yeah.
And she's stuck to it. Now she's working on a little storybook about the history of the 75 years of the Christmas trees here, and I would never have the patience to do that, but she's going to do it and get it out there, and this is going to be our diamond anniversary of Christmas trees. And,
Yeah. I remember I have my grandfather's old barn behind my house here. It was built in 1939, and it's the center of our farm. And I remember my wife, she'd say, that barn really needs painting. And I think to myself, well, that's not going to make me not $1. But she was right. I mean, 5 and 6 generations on your farm, 4 generations here. If we don't take care of those structures, I got a lot of farms that talk about they've been several generations, and then we walk into this brand new barn that's built, and it was just built last few years. It's not as genuine as it is when you ride at your house. I mean, it's genuine, and you feel it when you drive down between your buildings, and they're absolutely beautiful. Last thing I want to talk about is your kitchen. I know you give people an experience, maybe to harvest, cook, and enjoy, or you maybe just prepare it for them. Tell us a little bit about that kitchen.
well, that was the vision of Jean, my wife, some 20 years ago, and created the building, and it was extremely popular and extremely educational. People would come, go, walk through the gardens, learn how to learn potatoes grew under the ground, and you got to get your hands a little soily to then bring them in the kitchen and work with them. COVID kind of wrapped that up because we just couldn't come together. And now in our mid-70s, she's on to doing more writing, and not sure when the educational part of the kitchen will come back, but I'm sure given enough time it will. And it's now deploying a lot of just wonderful creations for people visiting the winery.
Sure. Yep. So I would encourage everybody listening, if you're going to the Northeast and you're going to travel through Connecticut, you need to go to the Jones Family Farm and check it out, because it is absolutely a jewel of the Northeast. And it has taken a long time and a lot of hard work to make it sustainable and successful business that these two gentlemen have the privilege, and I consider the privilege to farm my land, and I know you do, to farm there. So, Jamie, now that I've invited everybody in the country to come see you, how can they look you up and visit you, and what are the last thoughts you might have?
I think the best thing, we try to get as much of our information out there on our website, jonesfamilyfarms.com. That has, you can, find everything you need to know there. I would like to think. Of course, we have a number of other social media platforms that we're involved on, but I'll admit I'm keeping my hands in the dirt, and I don't get too engaged with that. But between the Facebook, Instagrams, and Twitter accounts, I know we have them, and we can be followed on that. We've got a couple of our employees that enjoy sharing what's going on in the farm in real time, so people can see that. But I would start with our website, jonesfamilyfarms.com, and branch out from there. And of course, we're very flattered to have have you visit. I mean, I can't imagine. Farm Bureau has been so important to my family for so many generations, and I can only imagine my forebears that actually thought the president of American Farm Bureau actually came to their farm. So you're welcome to come back any time. I know you've got an awful busy schedule traveling the countryside, but maybe in a few years or so forth, just let us know and come and see us again.
Yeah, one day I'll come and shadow you. I'll get my hands in the dirt. I like that myself too. Terry, any last words?
Well, at the end of the day, it's an old New England tradition. You want to leave this earth, leave the wood pile a little higher than you found it, because the wood pile sustained New Englanders all through the winter. Leave it a little higher than you found it.
Yeah. Thank y'all so much. The Jones Family Farm in Shelton, Connecticut, just a jewel that I had the privilege of, and it was my privilege to be there at your farm. So thank you for that wonderful experience, and I hope I do get to come back someday and bring my wife with me, because I know that she would enjoy seeing that. Thank you for everyone listening with us today. I hope you enjoyed your vision of what a working farm in Connecticut looks like, and what a wonderful family is there that's providing an experience for hundreds of thousands of people that would not have that if it had not been for this family and the programs that they've been able to partner with to make it a reality. Thank y'all. I hope you have a wonderful fall coming up and very successful. And I look forward to seeing you and your families and your wives real soon again. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you.
Stay well.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Farmside Chat. Please be sure to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And while you're at it, take a minute to rate and review the podcast. This helps us continue to bring you farm fresh content that everyone can enjoy. Until next time, thank you and God bless you.